We cured world hunger, and now everyone is smiling as they starve. They nominated me for a Nobel. I think I deserve a bullet. They called me a savior, a humanitarian, the man who silenced the gnawing stomach of the world. My name is Kian, and I am the architect of the quiet apocalypse. I didn't use a bomb. I used a needle-thin electrode and a weak electric current. It started with the best intentions. It always does, doesn't it? Our project, funded by every bleeding heart foundation you can name, was meant to end famine. My colleague Zola and I were cartographers of the brain, mapping the ancient, desperate wiring in the hypothalamus that screams for food. Not for weight loss, not for vanity, for the children with bloated bellies and hollow eyes. That was our mantra. The breakthrough came on a Tuesday. I remember the smell of stale coffee and ozone from the equipment. Our subject, Anselm, was a man whose life had been a war against his own appetite. He'd tried everything. He volunteered for our study with a kind of weary hope in his eyes. We guided the probe using a multi-axis rig, a spider of chrome and wire, until it rested against the precise neural bundle. Zola looked at me, her face pale in the monitor's glow. Ready? I nodded, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs. I engaged the current. It was less than the charge of a watch battery. We waited. 10 seconds. 30. A minute. Anselm blinked. He looked around the sterile room, at the medical posters on the wall, then at the tray of food we'd placed in front of him. A burger, fries, a glistening piece of chocolate cake. His favorite meal, he told us. He looked at it like one might look at a rock, an object without purpose. How do you feel? I asked, my voice tight. He was quiet for a long moment. He tilted his head. It's quiet, he whispered. There was always a hum, a machine in my gut. It's just off. The machine is off. He smiled, a slow, wondrous thing that spread across his face. It's so peaceful. Peaceful. That was the word. Zola and I didn't walk out of the lab that day. We floated. We'd done it. We'd found the off switch for hunger. Not a dimmer, an off switch. We envisioned a world where no one starved, not because we had more food, but because the need itself could be silenced. A clean, beautiful, elegant solution, a miracle. The media called it the stillness. Charities and governments fell over themselves to fund it. The procedure was simple, easy to replicate. In the first few months, it was a triumph. Volunteers wept with gratitude. They were free from the tyranny of cravings, of binge eating, of the constant, nagging desire that ruled their lives. The first warning sign was something we dismissed as a feature. The weight loss was dramatic, more than we projected. When we'd asked the trial participants if they felt any ill effects, they'd just shake their heads, their smiles serene. I just forget to eat sometimes, one of them, a young woman named Iona, told me during a checkup. Her cheekbones were suddenly sharp, her collarbone a ledge. Food just seemed so unnecessary. All that time spent chewing. It's a bit silly, isn't it? She laughed, a dry, airy sound. Silly. Eating. The fundamental act of survival. Then Anselm was readmitted. It had been 2 months. I didn't recognize him at first. His skin was thin as parchment, stretched tight over his bones. His hair was coming out in wisps. But the smile was the same. That same look of wondrous peace. He was severely malnourished, dehydrated. But he reported feeling fine. Better than fine. Liberated, he told me, his voice a rasp. We sat him down, we put an IV in his arm for nutrients. We pleaded with him. Anselm, you have to eat. He just looked at me with pity. Doctor, he said, his eyes clear and calm. You don't understand. I don't need to. The machine is off. It's so quiet inside me now. That's when the cold dread began to crawl up my spine. We hadn't just switched hunger off. We had broken the switch. We ran every test we could think of. We tried to jumpstart the system with hormone floods. Ghrelin, leptin, a dozen others. Nothing. We tried reversing the polarity of the current. We even tried, in a desperate and unethical final attempt, to induce a hunger pang with a direct, painful stimulus near the region. Anselm just sat there, humming softly to himself, while the monitor showed no response. We weren't silencing the signal. We had scoured the nerve cluster clean, burned it out of existence. We had removed a part of their humanity, and they had thanked us for it. Half the initial trial group was dead within 6 months. They didn't fight it. Some of them were on feeding tubes, but they'd pull them out at night, not with any violence or despair. They'd just calmly remove them and lie back, a faint smile on their cracked lips, and wait for the quiet to take them completely. We tried to stop it. We published our findings, the horrifying truth. We screamed from every rooftop that this was not a cure, it was a disease. But it was too late. The technology was too simple, the promise too great. It was like trying to put a virus back in a test tube. Bootleg clinics popped up in the back of tattoo parlors and strip malls. For a few $100, anyone could get the stillness. People lined up for it. They walked out with that same placid smile into a world they would no longer need. And the governments of the world, they let it happen. Of course they did. A population that doesn't need to eat is a population that doesn't need to eat is a population that doesn't riot over the price of bread. It's a population that doesn't require aid, or subsidies, or complex supply chains. It is a manageable decline. A cost-effective extinction. The world I live in now is a quiet one. The restaurants are all gone. The grocery stores are mostly shuttered, their windows dusty, the faded posters promising summer sales. Sometimes you walk past one with a broken door, and the smell of rot billows out, the thick, sweet stench of a billion uneaten calories. The farms are just fields of weeds. I see them on the street sometimes. The still. They drift, they don't walk. Gaunt figures in loose clothing, their bones like coat hangers. They all have that smile, that look of serene detachment. They gather in parks and just sit, staring at nothing, for hours. They are not in pain. That's the horror of it. Famine is loud, it is screaming, desperate, and violent. This is a whisper, a gentle fading. The playgrounds are the worst. Silent swings moving in the breeze. I saw a mother with her child last week. The little boy couldn't have been more than 5. His face was a skull, his eyes huge and dark. He was tracing patterns in the dirt. His mother stroked his thinning hair, her own face just as skeletal, and she was humming that same soft, tuneless song I heard Anselm hum in the hospital. She had given her son the gift of quiet, the gift of a painless death. I still eat. I force myself to. It's a chore, a mechanical act. I set timers on my phone. 8 a.m., 1 p.m., 7 p.m. The alarm goes off and I go to my pantry, stocked with canned goods I've been hoarding since it all went to hell. But something is wrong. A few days ago, I was sitting with a bowl of soup. The timer had just gone off. I sat there for an hour, just looking at it. The steam rose and vanished. The soup went cold. I never picked up the spoon. I just forgot. It seemed like such a pointless thing to do. Last night, I caught my reflection in the dark glass of my window. I saw a stranger, a man with hollows under his eyes I didn't recognize, with a jawline that was suddenly too sharp. My hands, the ones typing this now, look like bundles of sticks wrapped in skin. I keep telling myself I can still feel it, that knot of hunger in my stomach. But what if it's just a ghost? A memory of a feeling, not the feeling itself. What if, during one of the tests, one of the calibrations, what if I was exposed to a stray current? Or what if it's contagious, spreading through some vector we never even considered? Just now, before I started writing this, I did an experiment. I took an apple from the counter. I remember loving apples. The crisp snap, the burst of sweetness. I bit into it. Nothing. There was texture, the rough skin, the soft pulp. But there was no taste, no sweetness, no tartness. It was like chewing on wet paper. I felt no satisfaction, no pleasure, no desire for another bite. I looked at the apple, this useless red object in my hand, and I felt the corner of my mouth twitch. I think the machine inside me is finally going quiet.